Hi guys, Sifu Tarbell here, Wuxia martial arts. Today we'll be taking a look at how do we use the Bong Sau, right? So in our Wing Tsun style, the Bong Sau, right, translates in Cantonese into the wing arm, right? So it's not a hand per se, like Pak Sau or Tung Sau. It actually translates into wing arm, right? So in the Sunam Tao, we know that when we train this, right, we go from here, all right, and that the hand is nice and flat first, just like this, yeah? And then I turn, and you can see my elbow starts to come up. Once the elbow is higher than the wrist, then I push the elbow onto the center line, like that, and then the wrist extends forward. Now this makes a nice angle, the fingers are together, all right? And then this palm is turned slightly, right? So it doesn't have to be turned too much, but you don't want it turned like this either, right? So it should have this nice downward angle, all right? So we take a look at that on the other side. So the palm opens, I turn. So this is drilling. And once the elbow comes up nice and high, it's as if somebody is behind you pushing your elbow forward. It pushes the wrist onto the center line and it has a downward angle. So you can see this wrist bone, the wrist bone stays on the center line and it's a little bit higher than solar plexus, and it has a nice downward angle. The hand is past the center line and the wrist bone is on the center line. All right, so let's take a look at that from the side. So from here, I open, I turn, and then as the elbow comes out, it pushes forward, just like this. And you can see this angle is not a 90-degree angle. So it's not this, it's not like a Long Sau, right? Like how we have the Long Sau and we do this, right? It's actually extended out to 135 degrees. So when I go here and push out, it should be that this is flat, right? So not raised up too high, right? Nice and flat. And then from the elbow down to the fingertips, it makes a nice angle, okay? And now we do the other side. So I open the palm, right? Turn, and when the elbow starts to come up, then the fingers push forward, just like that. And you can see that it's nice and long and it has a downward trajectory here. And that the fingers are loose, but they're not spread open or anything. The fingers are together like this. Okay, so we take a look at that in the Sunam Tao, and the Sunam Tao really sets up the proper structure and the position of the Bong Sau for us. So oftentimes when I'm training the students, and we'll get into like some Chi Sao, or we get into like some positions using applications, students often struggle with where they should be. They always ask me, like, should the Bong Sau be a little bit higher, a little bit lower? And some of those concerns are quite valid. I would say, one, the Bong Sau should never be higher, right? Bong Sau is definitely a mid-level technique. It's not a technique to go up high. If it was to go high, it would either assume the position of Man Sau, like we have at the end of Chum Kiu, or this would end up going a little bit flatter, less angular. So it would come up this way. As in when somebody tries to grab and punch, sometimes we'll lift this up and go in just like this, all right? But this is not exactly a Bong Sau. This is just simply rotating the arm upwards like that. Right? We don't use it to block or anything. It's typically when somebody's gonna grab and we're in a pinch and they're gonna punch over, and we kind of lift this up so they have their hand grabbing and their punch on top. And I can control two hands with my one hand, and then I can come underneath and strike, all right? But those are rare situations. So more times than not, the Bong Sau is going to be a mid-level technique, but also in the Chum Kiu, sometimes you have the Dai Bong Sau, which is the low Bong Sau like this, and we do this, right? And we step, we have this position. But the nature of the Dai Bong Sau is typically to deal with things that are coming into the lower level, so typically going around. And that's a whole nother lesson for another time. Today's lesson is focused more so on the mid-level Bong Sau. So when you're doing any type of application or Chi Sao, and you kind of get confused and you're like, I don't know where I should be, or you're turned and you're like, I don't know where I should be, you can always go to the Sunam Tao and look at this position. And then if you were turned, right, it'd be there. Or, like if you were doing something, you're going to punch or you're going to do something, you can always look. And then this gets reinforced in our Chum Kiu when we do all of these, right? So when you have seeking the bridge, so now the Bong Sau turning in to actively seek the bridge. And this motion of us turning with the Bong Sau is what we're going to take a look at today. So Chum Kiu has a lot of these stepping and where the Bong Sau is active while we're moving, instead of the Sun Tao where it's just a stationary setting up the structure of it. Chum Kiu really teaches us how can we use the Bong Sau actively, okay? So we have two different ways I'm going to introduce today. The first one, we'll get into a good character too, all right? And from here, I'm going to go Man Sau, Wu Sau, all right? And then the first thing I want you to think about doing is, as somebody is coming in, I'm going to go forward. So from the side, I'm always going forward like that. The Man Sau, the front hand, is always trying to go out and seek and feel what is it going to be. It goes out to seek and feel what is it going to be, right? So from here, from my Man Sau, Wu Sau, right? I go forward like this, and then I'm going to let this turn right into Bong Sau. So from here, the elbow simply comes up, and I turn it to Bong Sau. So from the side, I go forward, and then it drops into Bong Sau, just like that. And you can see from this side, I go forward here, and then it drops into Bong Sau. Okay, so with that said, now we go here, we go forward, Bong Sau, and now as I get pressure, I'm gonna turn, and as I'm turning, I'm gonna punch, and this one, Bong Sau, comes up and goes boom, 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 like that. So I go forward, Bong Sau, turn and punch, and you see the Bong Sau disappears because the punch is taken over, and then I punch a few times. All right, so from here we go 1, 2, 3, and I finish. A little bit slow. 1, 2, 3, and I finish. Now, we do this very slow, step by step. Dim dim ching. 1, 2, 3, and I'm punching like this, right? So when I'm punching from a good Jima. So if I was in character 2, I go forward with the Bong Sau, I turn into Jima. See, I sit in that stance. And this is just like your Chum Kiu, right? Like if you were either doing this from here, or if you were doing this movement, the position is exactly the same. So if you're training at home and you're like, I don't know where I should be, go back and take a look at your Chum Kiu. So from here, right, we're in Yiji Kim Yang. I go forward, right? I go Bong Sau. And now I turn into Junma, the turning stance, and I sit, right? Now from here, the punch has gone over the Bong Sau, so I'm going to punch his face. Yeah, but I don't want to leave this Bong Sau out, so I bring it in, and I go 2, 3, just like that. So let's take a look again, ready? So from here, forward with the Man Sau, Bong Sau is formed. Bong Sau borrows the pressure, yields to the greater force, right? And then I punch, and as I do that, the Bong Sau comes up to the punching position, just like that, and I go, boom, boom, boom. Right. Now we do a little bit faster. So before we had 1, 2, 3, and finish with the punches. Now we go here, like that. So here. As I go forward, as soon as this thing makes contact and becomes Bong Sau and I'm turning, the punch is out, and then I'm already punching. So whenever you're using this concept, you should never go forward, right, and shape the Bong Sau and then just hold it there, because then you're holding the guy's force. But the same is true is if I turn and go with his force, that's fine, but I don't want to stay here forever. The Bong Sau is kind of a weak position. It's more for just dispersing energy off to the side so that I can come in and punch right away. Our intention is always to be able to punch and attack, right? It's never to block multiple things and then try to do something, right? So from here, as I go forward and I turn, this thing comes in right away. Forward, turn, and punch right away. So you can see the Bong Sau is there literally for like half a second. You go here, like that. So Eamon Bostepi, Master Eamon Bostepi used to be in our system up until about 6th level master. He's a very talented guy, but he's got some videos, you can search around on YouTube. But there's one particular video of him demonstrating a technique similar to this, and he says to the crowd, "Can you see the Bong Sau?" Right, and he was very fast, of course, but like the whole idea is when you're going forward, is that you shouldn't be pausing and holding the position and then doing this thing. Is that as you go forward, the Bong Sau leaves right away and just borrows energy so that you can go forward and bridge the gap. Remember, the Bong Sau comes from mainly the Chum Kiu is teaching us how to use this concept, right? So we're seeking the bridge, always seeking the bridge. So when I go forward and I seek the bridge, I have to cross it right away, right? Because you never know if that's a stable bridge, right? If you're crossing and your partner or opponent does something like kind of crazy out of the blue, the safest thing I can do is get to the other side, and the other side being like their face, right? Or their neck or what I'm gonna attack. So when I go here, I don't wanna pause in the middle of the bridge and then try to do something, right? Because that's when things get hokey. So from here I go forward this way, and like that. So here, turn, punch, like this, okay? Yeah, so it's not like the movies, you know, where you have like some of these like hokey positions, and then guys like, oh, whoosh, whoosh, like that. It's not really how the Bong Sau is used. It's more to disperse energy and then go in right away, okay? So the second technique that we can take a look at is also predicated upon the idea of building a bridge, right? So same thing coming from the Chum Kiu is when we're here and we've turned this way, right? Is that we can also shoot in with the Bong Sau, right? And the Bong Sau, right, we have this, the Bong Sau coming in to our Sun Tao, right, when we go here, and then we go forward this way. From the side, in our fourth set of the Sun Tao, we go here with the Bong Sau, all right? Now, the Bong Sau itself, the thrusting fingers, right? A lot of people kind of get this confused, and they say, oh, well, you're gonna poke this guy in the eyes. I mean, you can, it's not wrong. But typically in our system, you know, we're not trying to aim towards somebody's eyes like this or something like the snake style or something. Typically, you know, if you're gonna go into the eyes in our system, you're using the thumbs, which you have in the Chum Kiu, right? The Chum Sau is this way or coming in this way right away, because typically you're punching and all you have to do is open up your hand, and then it fits in very nicely on the side of the face, as opposed to this, right? Later, this is kind of explain what we're doing with this. This is more like striking the neck and stuff like that, right? But the one thing that the Bong Sau can be used for is bridging, right? Or striking like softer targets as well, right? If you're trying to strike the eyes and the guy puts his head down or something or flinches, and then you hurt your fingers on his forehead, that's no good. But for bridging, right, this thing is quite effective. So we go here, right? I go forward. Right, and now from here, as I turn with the Bong Sau, I'm going to go forward this way. You see that? So I go one, right, which is if he's coming in, right, I can try to bridge to his punch. I bridge onto his punch, yeah? So I go one, turn is two, and then as I bridge, I'm going to bring this one in. You see that? So it goes here. As I bridge with the Bong Sau, right, this hand comes in with the Quan Sau and just rests, right? So let's look at that. So I go one, two, and as I go Bong Sau, the Bong Sau hand does a Quan Sau. So he comes inside and it rests on top, just like this, okay? So I go forward and I go one, I go two, this comes inside and rests, and then it shoots straight up, follows the path of the fingers, and goes in like that, 2, 3, all right? So it gives us a little more control than this thing, which is nice. This is more of a yin technique, right? Where you're being very passive and loose and letting the energy go. This one's a little bit more yang. You're still letting it go, but it has more of like an aggressive thrusting action to it. So we go from here and we go 1 with the Man Sau, 2 with the Bong and Jun Ma, 3 as I go forward with the Bong Sau, and then my Bong Sau hand comes inside using the Quan Sau motion, right? And then follows the path of the fingers and goes forward like that. Now remember, the Quan Sau is in the beginning of the Sun Tao and the Chum Kiu, and technically the Bu Ji as well, right? So we go Gao Cha Tun Sau, double cross Tun Sau, Gao Cha Gun Sau, the double cross Gun Sau, the splitting hand, and then we go here with the Quan Sau like that. So this motion itself, when we go Bong Sau, and then we go this way, is the Quan Sau motion. So let's look again, right? Right hand is forward. I go forward with the Man Sau, forms into Bong, and I turn, just like that. And now, as the Bong Sau goes forward, the right hand, which is my Bong Sau, is going to make the Chum Kiu motion, and it comes up on top. Then it travels up my arm, which is connected to his arm, so we have the long bridge, just like that. And then I go. All right, so let's take a look at that from this side. Ready? I go forward here. I make the Bong Sau. I turn. I go forward with the Bu Sau, and then my Bong Sau hand comes inside. You see that? Comes inside. Right? And then I slide straight up, and I punch. Right, so as this guy is coming very aggressive here, right, you're going to borrow this force. So he's here, and then you bridge onto his arm, and then you have the path straight to the neck or the head or whatever it is that you're going to strike. So I forward, right, as his punch is coming, I move myself off the center line. So the punch is coming this way. You see that? And I turn, and then Bu to bridge onto him. Right? Could be that his arm's gone and I'm striking into the throat or a vital target, sides of the neck. But if his arm's there, I make contact with the punch. This comes up, and then I slide right over his arm, and then I can go in, just like that. All right, so let's look at it from the side. So I go forward with the Bong Sau. I go fully formed Bong Sau. Turn, right? I go forward with the Bu, and at the same time, the Bong Sau goes through the Bong Sau motion, comes up on top, and slides. One more time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can start to try to eliminate some of these steps, right? It's good to do the dim dim chain, like 4 steps. So everything is really defined. 1, 2, 3, 4. But then you can start to kind of get rid of some of those steps. So you go like that. And still slow. Here. You try to keep very clean definition when you're doing this. All right, so those are 2 ideas of how we can use the Bong Sau, especially when seeking the bridge, right? When trying to connect your arm, right, to the other person's arm to build a bridge. Right? And this is one concept. We have many different ways that we can build a bridge, but this is kind of the most basic way. And Bong Sau is a fantastic tool for us to be able to use to borrow power and really connect to the bridge. So the last thing that I would tell you guys for today's lesson, which is kind of a mini lesson, is sometimes we can take a look at how is the Bong Sau able to transform at the last minute if we have to. So from here, right, if I'm going forward and I have the Bong Sau and I'm about to punch, or maybe I was about to Bu Sau, but the guy punches again. So if he was like 1, right, and then I was controlling this arm with my Bong Sau, but he punches again. This is always a danger, even if I'm off to the side, right? Like, you know, he still has the free hand. And sometimes they'll come over my arm. So when I go here and I go forward, I may control the first punch like that, but if I'm in the midst of turning and the second punch is coming, right away, this is going to drop and go forward and turn into Tun Sau, and then I punch here. Now, typically, we don't like to say block. We don't have blocks in Wing Chun, you know, but in this case, like, and we don't try to block multiple things like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, we don't really do that stuff. Like typically, we try to do simultaneous same time. But sometimes, if the guy is very fast, you may have to do like 1, 2, and then hit the guy, or like a Pak Tan and then hit the guy, depending on how fast this guy is. Or if just when I'm trying to go forward, my hand may end up meeting something else if I tried to like Pak, and all of a sudden I have to borrow some pressure from the feeling of it. All right, but I don't actively seek trying to do blocks like 1, 2, 3, doing all this stuff, because eventually, like, no matter how good you are at blocking, you will get hit. All right. So in this case, right, if I'm going forward like that, and as I'm turning into Bong, all of a sudden the second punch comes, I wouldn't want to have my backhand go forward, right? That's too slow. So this bad boy is already here. All I do is drop the elbow and let it go forward, and then I turn with time. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, and again. So Bong Sau goes forward, bong, and then I go Tan and hit. Right? So 1, 2, 3. All right, let's take a look from the side. So I'm going forward with the Bong Sau, and then I go bong, but in the middle of making this Bong Sau, all of a sudden something else is coming. This goes forward like that. You see how it goes forward? So I don't go bong, Tan like this, right? I don't go shape, because I don't know what the feeling is going to be. So I go bong, and then this goes forward, almost like Bong Sau. It turns into the Tan, and then I shift and punch. So 1, 2, 3. Right? And again, 1, 2, 3. Now let's take a look from this side. Ready? So I go forward, bong, Tan. Here, forward. First punch is dealt with, second punch is coming. So it goes forward this way, and then I borrow it. So once again, you have the idea of borrowing power using the Bong Sau, yielding to the power, and then yielding with the Tan Sau. And this will kind of bridge us, like in a few sessions, we'll be taking a look at how do we use the Tan Sau more in different ways to have different connections with Pak and Tan and all these different things. But Tan and Bong Sau really go well together. Right, so from here, one more time, I go forward, bong, and then goes forward and Tan. Now, when you're training this, the most important thing, obviously, is that when you go forward and you go bong, you don't want to try to form the Tan first, right, and then turn and move around it. This thing, as I go forward and I go bong, this is going forward. You see that? So I go bong, forward to meet the second punch, right? Then this turns, and I go here. Because at the higher ranks, you won't know what it is. You go bong, you go here and go bong, and maybe you go forward, right? But it's something else. You know, maybe it's Cow Sau, or maybe it's like a Chum Sau that I have to do. Maybe it's slid to the inside, so you don't know. But the idea is that when I'm in bong and the second punch comes, I have to square up a little bit and go forward. And then if it slides on the outside of the arm, I can do Tan. Right? So we go here and we go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So forward, up and out. See that? Up and out. Here, and then forward. Here. Yeah. You can even train this as a drill, as an exercise, right? You go forward, bong, go forward, Tan. Right? Then you can do the other side. You go forward, bong, you go forward, Tan. And then you're automatically on the other side. Forward, bong, forward, Tan. Forward, bong, forward, Tan. And every time I go forward. Wing Chun, right? Go forward. Okay, guys, so that is the lesson for today, is how to use the Bong Sau to actively seek the bridge, and then how to cross the bridge. So I hope you have a little bit of fun with this. Take your time, like, you know, even some of the students that are like, I have this, I know this, Sifu has shown me this before in class. No, take your time, you know. Go and really watch yourself in the mirror and make sure that you have dim ching, all points cleared, right? So that everything is really clean, because you want to make sure that your weapon technology, which is you, your nervous system and your muscle memory, is firing on all cylinders, and that everything is really, really clean and really, really sharp. Because you know, when you have to use this stuff either in sparring, and you can use it in sparring, Bong Saus happen all the time, right? Tan Saus happen all the time. It doesn't matter if you have a boxing glove on. You don't need your hand. You just need the feeling of the arm, right? But when you use it either for self-defense, or you use it here, or in your Chi Sau, right, or a Wat Sau, or whatever, you want to make sure that you know, your form is exceptionally clean, because we're all working towards mastery, right? It doesn't matter what rank you are, we're all working towards mastery. Okay, so with that said, I hope you all have a good weekend and a good week in training this. And if you ever have any questions about it, feel free to shoot me an email or just grab me in class. You know, probably like at the end of class, or like on the side, if you're training a little bit and I come by, you can get me on the side and be like, oh, you know, that thing we did in the video, can you like kind of show me a little bit? And if I have some time, I will. If we're in the middle of a topic, then I'll always try to make some time for you guys after, okay? All right, guys, so, all right, cheers.